Hello, welcome back to Life Enrichment with Hank Ballinger. Today we're going to talk about retiring young. Now, a lot of people, the idea of this will be very appealing, and that's good. That's very good. But how are you going to retire? I want to talk to you today about the idea of this movement that's going across America. It's called the FIRE movement, Fixed Income Retire Early. And they're retiring very young age, but with no means, So we want to talk about that today. Before we get into that, I want to say thank you for those who watch the channel. If you could, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. Subscribing to the channel really helps us on our algorithms with YouTube. So we would really appreciate if you would do that. Encourage others to watch our podcast. We would really appreciate it. So thank you very much for that. Now, in the FIRE movement, the idea is you can retire young. And the idea, it's an acronym. FIRE means Fixed Income Retire Early. Now, what most people catch when they hear that is the retire early, but they don't see the fixed income. Now, that fixed income is very low. Very low. Now, here's some of the things they teach you. Live very small. You live very small. You don't have a large living. You don't have a lavish lifestyle. You live really, really small. You don't accumulate assets. You don't buy apartment buildings. You don't buy income producing real estate. You don't buy anything, and you do without. Now, some of that may hit some people. And they may look at that idea and say, you know what, I could do that, and that's okay with me, and that's fine. If that hits you, no problem, if that works for you. But I think there would probably be a lot of people that would join this movement, and then later on, after several years, maybe 10, 15 years, they think, wow, you know what, I'm going to have to live like this my whole life, and I have nothing to show for it. And can we really depend on the government to say Social Security will be there? And if we're not really working very much, as the FIRE movement kind of teaches, we may not be paying in much. So therefore, if you don't pay in much to Social Security, you're not going to get much out of Social Security. You think about it, it's kind of like most things, you only get out of it what you put into it. If you put very little into Social Security, the government's not going to have a big check for you when you get older. Now, can we guarantee that those of you who are younger, maybe in your 20s and 30s, that there's going to be Social Security there as you get older? We can't guarantee it. We don't know. But what we can say is if you don't put much in, you won't get much out. And if you depend on that as your only source of income, what if for some reason they did decide to end the program? They said it's not funded, so therefore you won't get the money. There's a lot we could get into in that. In macroeconomics, it is an unfunded liability, but rather than get into that, all I want to say is don't trust the government as your only source of income for retirement. Now again, the FIRE movement may say something like this. They may say, listen, live small. You don't need air conditioning. Your grandma and grandpa didn't have air conditioning. People live for thousands of years without air conditioning. You don't need it. And a matter of fact, heat. You don't need much heat. You know, you could go around with a blanket on, or rather than pay for electric heat in the wintertime, go out and cut your wood. You're going to, and they teach you literally not to have a very much of a job. You know, live very small. You don't need but maybe a few $100s a month to live on. You live very small. You get a really small house. It's paid for. You don't have any bills. And a matter of fact, go out and cut your firewood. Have a fireplace so you don't burn electric. You keep your payments low. You don't have you don't have air conditioning. Your heat is with wood. So you're keeping your expenses very low, and you go out and cut your own wood. And that's fine. If that suits you, not a problem. I just don't think that suits many people, especially in America, where we see so many people living much larger than that. So how can you live large? I don't want you to not accumulate assets, and I don't want you to have to live on less. I think everybody could live on more, but you have to systematically plan that. It's not going to haphazardly happen. It won't work. Won't work. Here's what I encourage people. Expand your means. See, the FIRE movement says live small. I say live large. Buy income-producing real estate that will build your wealth. Now, Robert Kiyosaki, the guy that wrote Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and many other books to help people build wealth, he says this, that rather than going out and buying a Ferrari or a car or a Rolex or something big, what he would say is you go out and you buy an income-producing asset, maybe an apartment building, and then that asset will then pay for the car that you're going to go out and get then, or the Rolex that you're going to buy, or the painting that you're going to buy. Maybe it's a pretty nice painting, but you never buy what he calls doodads. He says you go out and you buy the asset that will pay for that doodad, plus you're not only getting the doodad, but you're also building additional wealth with what's called the phantom income of that property, the appreciation, the depreciation, and the equity in that property that you pay for every month in your payment. You get that phantom income, plus you get the cash flow, and you can continuously build wealth as you raise rents on that property. So you, instead of buying an asset that's going to, or a liability that's going to go down in value like a car or a watch, you're going to buy an asset to pay for that is then going to go up in value and build your wealth. Think about that. Always learn how to expand your life, not to contract it. And to me, that's one of the problems of the FIRE movement. It contracts life, makes life small rather than building it up. So I would rather encourage people to expand their means. Accumulate assets. Those assets are going to make you wealthy. Now, let's say you bought a single-family home, and you could, because it's a rental home, you can't put it on 30 years amortization with a bank, but you can put it on 25. So let's say you bought that house today, and it's a $100,000 house, which is today a small house. But in 25 years, let's say it doubled in value, it's $200,000. So you went from here and you doubled your value of your house in 25 years to $200,000. But what about if in that 25 years you had bought a bunch of property, and instead of just having one house that doubled, you have now a whole bunch of property that doubles? Now you have exponentially grown your wealth by expanding and buying income-producing real estate. It will expand your means, and it will accumulate your asset base. Accumulating your asset base, very important, especially if you can start that young. Now you've got time on your side. You've got 30, 40, 50 years maybe to build wealth in your life. By the time you get old, you're going to be doing well. When starting to build wealth, keep personal expenses low. Now, I know what people are thinking. You're saying the same thing they're saying over here. Not at all. Not at all. They're saying you start out low, you keep your expenses low, you do without your whole life. What I'm saying is you learn to be frugal and miserly now, and later you can buy assets, and later, even though you're living on a very, very small percentage of your income is going to be massive, and your small percentage you're living on is still much larger than the average person is living on. So even though you're living on a small percentage of what you have, it's still much larger than the average person is living on. So by watching what you do early, being miserly, building that asset base up, and giving it time. See, that's the key. People want to go out and buy a duplex and think, I'm going to become a millionaire in a year. Not going to happen. Not going to happen. You're going to have to buy a big asset base, buy a lot of assets, keep them over time. Time is the element. You've got to be patient. Yeah, you're going to have to fix a lot of water heaters. You're going to have to fix a lot of toilets. You're going to have to fix clean paint for many years. Keep buying those assets. Keep giving yourself more headaches now so that later on you can live better than the average person. Now, later on you will live well. Now, a lot of people, when they're starting out and they're buying their assets and they're getting their asset base bigger, what they say is, of the cash flow that I get each month, I'm going to put 50% back in to the business so I can buy other assets, and I'm going to live on 50% of the cash flow. Some people say, no, I'm going to put 60% back in, and I'm going to live on 40% of the cash flow. Now remember, the cash flow is you take all of your income a month, take away all of your expenses, whatever you have left, that's cash flow. That's what you're living on. Some people say, no, I'm going to put 60% back in and I'm going to live on 40. Some people say, I'm going to put 70% back in to buy more property. No matter how much property I get, I'm going to keep putting 70% in and only live on 30. And some people say, no, we're going to live on 80-20. We're going to put 80 back in and live on 20. What my wife and I did for several years, we put 100% back into the business, didn't live on one dime of it, and lived on 0% from that. We both had jobs. We could pay our bills. So we put 100% back in to build that asset base bigger, faster, and it kind of shot us ahead of the competition. Not bragging, not saying anything bad about the competition. All I'm saying is this can be done by anybody. Now, we did our own maintenance, which helped because we kept our costs low. We're putting 100% in. We can buy more property faster, keeping our costs low by doing our own maintenance, did our own fix, clean painting as much as we could. Sometimes we would have to hire out an electrician or maybe a plumber for the big stuff. But we did as much as we could ourselves. The cleaning, not a lot of fun a lot of times, but that's what you have to do to get from point A to point B. It can be done. Now, I love this saying. Today I will do what others won't, so tomorrow I can do what others can't. Now, one of these days, all that hard work is going to pay off. Now, if you do the fire movement, you may live small for many, many years, and at the end of that road, you still got to live small because you have nothing. You've accumulated nothing. You have nobody else helping you. The law of reciprocity says the more people you help, the more you are helped. Here, you're helping a lot of people by offering them good housing, so therefore you are helped. Here in the fire movement, you're not really even helping yourself to accumulate or to build. You can't help anyone else. This person could be a philanthropist. This person could not. A philanthropist, someone that helps others by programs, charities, giving them money straight out. This person can do that. So today you need to do what others won't, so tomorrow you can do what others can't. Every one of you can be Redneck Rich. See you on the next video.